Talk Shoe. Recorded live.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be across the nation or around the world. Once again, you're listening to the VMware Communities Roundtable podcast. This is podcast number 637. My name is Eric Nilsson, and with me today, I have my regular co-hosts. Today is Wednesday, March 1st, 2023. Matt, how are you doing today?
Eric, I am well. It is, I can't believe it, March 1st. It seems like we're flying through 2023 as it is in VM world. And VMUG meetings will soon be back in full swing. I just was in a local chapter meeting myself here for Central Pennsylvania that occurred last week. We had a couple last year, but I know in Central Pennsylvania as well as Pittsburgh and Philly that we're picking back up to, dare I say, pre-pandemic levels. We have the Philly UserCon that's coming up here in a couple of weeks and whatnot, but we'll get into all of that with our guest, Gene Williams, today. But before we speak on those topics, sir, my favorite questions, how are you? How are things out there on the snowy West Coast? And what is the color of the bay?
Let me tell you, Matt, I should do some kind of cheesy imitation. Help, I'm drowning, because it is just continuing to be snowy, rainy, cold winter, January, February weather. I haven't seen this since I've lived in California. To give
now,
you
let's cut through the hype for a second as far as the snowpocalypse, right? I think the Bay Area, and occasionally I'm sure that you guys see a little bit of snowflakes, but if as an let's call it a mid-Atlantic resident, an East Coaster. If you follow these national news, it seems like you folks are out there under 6 feet of snow. Now, I know there's plenty out there towards Tahoe and whatnot, but in the western foothills down towards the bay, what has been the snow? Any, some, a little?
Well, normally in the Bay Area on the eastern slopes, there's hills, and those Mount Hamilton will always get a light dusting of snow, right? And those are now looking like Tahoe, right? Where it's got permanent snow caps across all the mountains on the eastern side of the bay, right? Coming down halfway down the mountainside. And on the western side, going over the 17 to Santa Cruz, where I've never seen snow since I've lived here since 1997. We now have snow on that side going up the 17. They had to close it because they didn't have snow plows to clear the 17 highway, which is the western part of the mountainside. And in fact, the Ridgeline Road, I forget the name of the Ridgeline Road that everybody knows, and there's a famous restaurant up on the top of that, Ridgeline or something. That one also had, parking lots of snowplow, so the whole eastern side also got a lot of snow. We had, just to understand, we had snow down to the 800-foot elevation, which isn't very high for the Bay Area, right? So a lot of places got it. We had snow in Oakland Hills. We had snow, Alan Renouf, his house, that had burned a couple years ago. He had his kids are sledding on that western mountain at his house, right? So snow. So we had a lot of snow, cold weather.
What about at campus? As far as at Palo Alto, did that get a dusting, or that's just too low?
It got snowflakes, but didn't stick. So we had snow up on those hills, the Stanford campus. We did have some snow there as well. So yeah, it's not a big deal. It is a big deal because we've had a lot of water. And to understand, Tahoe had 30 feet of snow up until last weekend. We got another 6 feet of snow. So 36 feet of snow. We have another storm coming this weekend, right, which will get more snow. So this is the most snow they've had on record since they've been keeping records. So it has been a snowy season. Now, the good news with all that is that our droughts, the reservoirs are going to overflow, flood the Russian River, and all the reservoirs are now all happy. There are a few reservoirs that are still below average, but
Lake Mead still is 182 feet down.
Yeah.
So hopefully this will add a little bit to all that.
That will help the Lake Mead. Yeah, definitely. So that's good. So anyway, happy to have the weather, happy to have the snow, fun to visit my daughter's house in Oakland Hills, which also had snow on it. It's all good. Tony, Corey couldn't be here today, but he was digging. He has, I think, 24 feet of snow on his property in Utah. So we've had a lot of weather come across, and he hasn't got the next 6 feet of snow. That'll hit him, I think, tomorrow. So fun times, good weather, cold, calm, sunny day today before the rain starts again. Color of the bay is just a deep green. It's just a deep winter green, as you would see like in New Jersey in the wintertime. So good times for all. And back to your VMUG spinning up. We have heard that we've been getting a lot of content for VExperts submitted this year so far. So Noelle says on the advocacy submission tool that we've seen double the amount of content she normally gets. So she's approving posts up to 100 some a day, where normally she'd be getting 50 a day. So I think we are back in business here for this year, and it's going to be exciting, and why we thought we should have Jean Williams on, right, to talk about VMUG. And I don't think we've had Jean on in a long time, if ever, on her own. So Jean, welcome to the show. As always, we do the who are you, how long have you been at VMware, and what do you do, and what does your career arc look like to get you to this spot?
Well, thanks, Eric and Matt, for having me. I'm excited to be here to talk about VMUG, my favorite topic. Working with the community is something I'm very passionate about. I've been at VMware over 18 years, and majority of that time has been spent on helping to build the VMUG community. Anywhere from where we started, in-house, to where we went to the independent model. We were growing so fast, I just needed more support, and so we looked at this independent model. So we're based out of a association management company out of Nashville, which most people may know that now. How I got here, it was by luck. I had worked at another company for about 12 years, and they were making a lot of organizational changes. And someone reached out to me from VMware to come in and look at a field marketing position, and I did. And it just kind of led me into trying to build user communities. So
when I started, you were here working and running the user groups back when VMware owned them. So it was like, I think we shared time in the building in Porter together, right? There were all these, the Porter was this creaky wood building that was like a Harry Potter castle, right? You'd walk through it, little narrow, they had a little stairway in the back to go to the other floors. There were like 3 different floors. They were all at different levels, and it was all made of wood. So the place actually creaked. And my claim to fame back then was they were giving you desks in the hallways because we were growing so fast that they didn't have places to put people. And so like when I first started at VMware, and I came from Sun Microsystem, which was a big campus and a nice office, and I came to VMware and they went, "Oh, here's your desk." And it was like in the hallway. And I'm like, "Oh, did I make a mistake?" Right. It was just like a career move that I'm gonna regret. But obviously Sun was, having its bad days before it went under. They were still solid. It hadn't been bought by Oracle yet, but it was clearly starting the tech swirl for sure. So I don't regret ever coming to VMware, and VMware was a fun place. But you're one of the first persons I got to know because you were running community stuff, and I thought that was cool. So
I think I was like the 900 employee or something around that number. So it's
and I think by then I was already at 2000, right? Like when I started.
This was back in the day when like Diane Green wanted to like talk to everybody that got hired. So it was fun times. And then I remember actually in that building, every 3 months we had to move. I finally got down in the dungeon. So we were in the bottom floor. I don't even know if there was windows. I just remember when it rained, it got really moist down there and we had to like leave, and a lot of mildew maybe growing down there. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I ended up in the Cube farm over in Porter. They had another bigger building in that was Porter that had like 100 cubes on the second floor and 100 cubes on the first floor. And I was in the Porter Creaky building, then got moved to the Porter Cube building, then got moved to the Prom campus when it opened.
I think that's where I met you, is in that second Porter building, because I also was in that big, huge cube.
Yeah, the Cube farm, area. I called it. Yeah.
And then we moved over to Prom, which was really funny because I actually worked in the Prom building, the same building that I moved to, at another company prior to VMware taking over that campus.
Oh, interesting.
And
Roche.
owned it
Roche.
all.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Roche
there
owned it
was
all. Yeah.
there was another company that, rented out a couple of their buildings, or at least some of their buildings, and I worked there already. So it was kind of funny to go back to the same space I had been in for years.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's good. And now you lived in the Bay Area back then, but now you're up in Sacramento or somewhere
Yeah, about
further
5 years
north,
ago,
right?
I moved up to this area. My daughter's up here, and my
Nice.
grandkids. So
Yeah,
spending
gotta
time
love
with
that.
them.
Right,
Yeah.
right. All right. So let's talk a little bit of VMUG in the early days, right? Because it was fun to be there. This is back when we owned it. And Matt, I don't know if you were still around back when VMUG started up. When
Well, I have
VMUG.
several questions with this. So I have a
All
little bit of story for myself, but then I have questions that Gene might be able to settle a little bit of controversy because I've heard multiple answers for this.
Okay.
So, what was, to the best of your knowledge, the first user group in the States?
Oh, in the States. Oh, God, that's really going to be too hard for me to remember. I honestly don't remember. What stands out to me in Europe was Belgium for some reason, but I don't know in the United States, honestly. Really sorry.
Okay.
You think it's Philadelphia?
I've heard it's Boston,
Oh,
and I
well,
know
Boston's an
that
empty one because there is controversy there.
right. So I know in 2004 and 2005, I was an IT director for a mid-Atlantic retailer, and there wasn't any even VARs that were heavily involved in our area. So I was driving over to Pittsburgh to go meet with what was then an independent group that of VMware users. It was led by individuals from Robert Morris University, Carnegie Mellon, and FedEx. And that really started around, again, 2004, 2005. We had 2.5 in prod and then moved over to 3. And then we're playing around with some dust tone desktops that we were using for what was then very, very early on VDI implementations. But then, followed it ever since and had done presentations and was on steering committees over with Pittsburgh, and then eventually got involved with Central PA and whatnot. And I was always tracked it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's always been a part of my professional technical career to be involved with VMUG in some way, whether that's just as an individual showing up for meetings or contributing on steering committees or giving presentations or doing the whole regional champ thing or whatnot, but it's been integral to my professional development. And it has played a large role in getting to where I'm at in my career and being an end user computing TAM. I wouldn't have even known about this role opening had it not been for some of those relationships that I had been able to establish via the Western Pennsylvania and Pittsburgh user group.
That's awesome,
So,
Matt.
and that's just one personal story. I'm sure that,
Yeah.
Gene, you have heard hundreds, if not thousands, of similar stories where VMUG has been that key central point in the career progression and career advancement for so many members of the V community as a whole.
Yeah, definitely have. It's really helped a lot of our members with their presentation skills. Obviously we know that that's an uncomfortable thing for a lot of people to do, is stand up and talk in front of people. And so I hear that a lot, that it's helped develop a lot of those skills that help make people be able to, present in their companies and present in front, even going to VMworld and go VMware Explorer, having that opportunity to go to those kind of stages. They got the confidence going and presenting at the VMUG. So that's really great to hear. I also have had a lot of leaders who just really hate stepping down because, their career has taken them in a different direction. Or they don't have the time any longer, but it was really like a hard decision to change positions in their company or go somewhere else, because then they had to step down from their leadership because they enjoyed it so much. The connections and relationships they built within VMware and the people they got to connect with was, that words couldn't be put to it, is what a lot of them told me. So
would
it's
agree
been
with
fun
that.
to see the journey and to see a lot of the members develop like that. It's been great.
Yeah, it is interesting that I looked at like when I started working with Gene here in the last half a year. I was like excited to go, engage with the local San Jose chapter, right, and see if we can give that a shot in the arm, because like I would like to have a handful more meetings, go to more meetings, participate, and I will. But I did not know that a VMware employee can't be a leader as well, right? You have to be an external person in order to run a VMUG, right? Which I think it makes sense, because it encourages customers, and the industry to be, the users, right? And to some degree, it reminds me of the Tron movie, Matt, where we're not really a user, we're part of the program, right? We're the what is it, MVP, but the master control MCP. We're the MCP part, right? We're not really the users, right? Which is interesting.
Just one big Finn's arcade.
Right. Exactly. So, moving on, Gene, I know that one of the reasons we want to have you here, and I should do a shout out that before it gets too far down in the podcast, Explore is happening, and there has been a call for papers out for Explore. So, US and Europe. US is August 21st through the 24th in Vegas, in the Venetian, and VMware Explore in Europe will be in Barcelona, November 6th through the 9th at the Fiera Grand Via, as always. So looking forward to that. And the call for papers is out. And there is
for procrastinators like me that are out there for Explore US, the call for papers caps at the end of this month. So March 31st, that deadline is noted, right? So get those submissions in, make sure that they're, documented out as best as they can be, but there is a limited window to do so. March 31st is that deadline.
And according to Tony Foster, this deadline is for the US. And so
Correct.
Go to vmware.com/explore/us.html. And I think there's a button there that you can click that will get you to the submit your paper link. I'll put that in. I'll publish that on the YouTube chat. And then there is a blog that they've published, blogs.vmware.com/explore, the Explore blog, /2023 Q2/28 to top 5 reasons to speak at VMware Explore. You can Google that, go find that blog. I will also publish that in the chat stream as well. Go get that. You got a month for US to get your papers.
If you're a customer, reach out to your account team, reach out to your TAM, let them know that you are interested in presenting, and that will greatly help your chances of making sure that your application is noticed.
And the short URL to the blog that you can read about top 5 ways is blogs.vmware.com/explore. And you can get there and go look at that article. It's on that blog. Yeah. So yeah, definitely go do that. And, we got a month, get your proposals in. I would just say, and this is not official, that a lot of times they'll maybe slip it an extra week to let people get a few more papers in. They'll look at how many are in, but don't count on it, because if they get enough of them in, then they'll be like, yep, thanks, no thanks, it's good. Now, the good news, Matt, this year is that last year they didn't really even do a solid call for papers. They kind of buried it because they weren't sure how many people were going to show up because of the pandemic, and it was the first year back. This year, they're doing a full-on call for papers, more traditionally what I'd expect for VMware Explorer and VMworld way of doing
Explore,
things. Yeah.
We were still trying to work out a little bit of content and material and how that was all going to be integrated versus internal presentations and what was customer content.
Right.
I see this is a shift back to, let's call it days of old, with a traditional call for papers approach.
Yeah, that's what I would say. And enough with that news announcement. So, Gene, the reason we brought you in today is that today I think is the first UserCon that's happening in 2023. Right? Is that correct?
St. Louis today.
So shout out to everybody in St. Louis that's going to UserCon. And, we should just take a minute to talk about UserCons versus chapter meetings and the blend between the two of those that Amsterdam does. I think that's kind of fun. So I know I'm a big chapter meeting, so maybe we can start chapter meeting first. Like the chapter meetings go, every X number of months, depending on your leadership of your current chapter, right? And this is a way you can get involved. So let's talk chapters for a little bit. How many chapters are there? I know you have this great slide that has all the chapter stickers or icons. Let's talk chapters for a minute.
Sure. And one thing I wanted to say as we're talking about call for content, if you like to present or want to present and get some content out there or share your story with others, if you're not feeling ready for VMware Explore just yet, VMUG is another great way to get started. So I would encourage you to try and make sure that you're connected with the local chapter and offer an opportunity to come in and present at the local meeting or just talk with the leaders there. They want to hear your story. Everybody can learn from everybody, what challenges you're going through, why you made decisions that you made, and the community is there to support you. So as Eric said, we have over 230 local chapters around the world. Most of these groups, we encourage them to meet every quarter just to have this, consistent cadence of meetings so people can get together. I think they average probably 2 to 4, depending on where those locations are, and the engagement with, the time that these volunteer leaders have available to set these meetings up. But, standard meetings can vary from group to group. So we really want to hear from the community on what they want to do and hear at their meetings. We could have something as simple as having VMware come in and talk on the latest topic, a partner come in, a customer share a story. We can have more like interview styles where a leader can just interview some of the customers and find out like what they're working on and just get some interaction and feedback from the members. You can, offer to have hands-on labs at a meeting. We can just do a hands-on lab for the whole session, or do a code session, or, run demos. Some of the groups get together just to kind of deepen the relationship, and they might do a top golf session, and then maybe there might be some interactive social time where they can talk, more informally about what they're doing in their environments or what questions that they might have, or they might go see the latest movie or just grab a drink and, at a restaurant and some dinner and just talk amongst each other. So the groups can be run differently, and it's really up to what the group wants to do and how they want to engage with each other. We do have a VMware technical support, like an SE or a TAM, that's assigned to every single chapter. And so we encourage them to get engaged so they can bring content and expertise to those meetings to help you out. So just want to make sure that you guys are aware of that. If you're not engaged with them, we want to make sure that the leaders are engaging with the VMware resource to help bring those expertise to you guys.
Yeah, that was one of the interesting things that I discovered, is that if you want to spin up a local chapter, right? Like say you're living somewhere where there isn't any for like 100 miles in any given direction. One of the things we do is we look at how many customers are actually in a region, right? So we have, a database of customers, and we can do it by zip code. We'll look at that, and we'll also look at identifying an SE or a field person that can actually support that group. So you kind of need those two things to get a user group even blessed by VMware. Is one, you have to have enough customers in your area that we have in our database, so that that you're pulling from a set of people. And then two, you do have to have somebody from VMware that can support that the leaders in that area, right? So that is interesting.
Yeah. So like we said, the groups, some of them have, maybe 100 to 1,000 people in each local chapter, although they don't all necessarily get together in person. Some people really benefited from the virtual events during COVID. Some of them like to go to the virtual events. Some like to come in person. Some of them we might not see them until we get together at VMware Explore. VMUG does a great job in trying to do as many things as they can to try and engage the customers in local areas. So we used to have, and I don't know if they did this last year, but they might even in the lunchroom, like have certain areas set up for if you're in, from the Americas, or you're from, APJ, or you're from EMEA, or they might even break it down further, by regions within the United States, so that you can meet up with people in your local region that you might not know yet. So anyways, I think that VMUG does a really great job in trying to pull the communities together.
Yeah, I would say absolutely. One of the things that we talked about is, how much does VMUG support the leaders in these chapters? And what I've learned by sitting on the board, that they actually allocate out dollars to deliver to, chapter leaders. Right, there is a fund, of 100K or bigger that gets consumed by chapter leaders to be able to afford things. So it doesn't always have to be sponsored by a local vendor who wants to, get in front and do a session. There's at will. And then I think it's Amsterdam or the Netherlands, I forget which group, actually, when they run their events, sometimes they actually put a price tag on the event so that people actually have to show up with some dollars, to pay, so that one, they can offer better things for their events, and two, it weeds out people that don't really want to be there, right? So that's also interesting. So everybody has their different models that they can run their chapter meetings, right? There is flexibility.
Right, absolutely. But we want to give them a sense of, owning their group and running their meetings kind of in an independent way, as part of the bigger VMUG organization.
Do you know where on the website do you find your chapter? So if you're listening to this and you haven't been to your chapter in a few years, and the reason that I'm bringing this up is that for me, being part of VMUG now, I do want to spend more time, and I'm working with the leadership at VMUG to spend more time focusing on the chapters themselves, right? To help the chapters really have good local meetings, as well as spending time on user cons. And we haven't talked about user cons yet, but for me, I would like to get people to spend more time, hanging out, going to Top Golf, spending time with each other. These are ways that you network, that will move your career forward as you need a new job or you're looking for a new role. Having a collection of people that you engage with in your local town actually helps you get more contacts in places that won't require you to move to a new city. So if you haven't been to a chapter meeting, I am encouraging you to reach out, figure out who your leader is, and ping them and say, hey, when are we going to have a meeting next? And how can I be involved? What are we going to do? Where do people find their leaders?
Yeah, I mean, the leaders come from people volunteering within the community. The VMware resource, we look to them to see if they have any customers that they might identify as somebody who's really engaged and passionate that want to, raise their hand to do that. We do have VMUG. They'll send out email communications to the whole community to see if they can get anyone to volunteer. So, if you are passionate about the community and you want to get involved, I would reach out to VMUG and, like you said, the leaders that are currently running the group. Now you can go to vmug.com. At the very top of the screen on the left, it says communities. And if you click on that, I thought I was going to say something simple like vmug.com/communities, but it's not coming up that way. You do have to register to be a member, which is free, in order to actually access the community page. So just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sitting looking at it. I'm like, wait, I'm not seeing it, but I got to go log in, right?
The easy way to do this, or I always recommend to people, is to click on events and then click on local meetings. And what that does is it will produce a page in chronological order of all global events that are happening on the chapter level.
Oh, good point.
So, although it won't say exactly what is the closest one to you immediately, it will show you which ones are active and have things going on. So, if there is a particular topic or a particular area that you may want to be considering yourself, you may want to travel. Like I think that I'm fortunate enough that we have Central PA, we have Pittsburgh, we have Philly, we have there's a DC users group, Northern Maryland and whatnot. So at any of those at a given point, rather than limiting yourself to just a particular group, sometimes it's also nice to look at that local events list and say, hey, there's something really interesting going on at a regional level that I'd make some time out to go and travel to. There's also out there with virtual meetings, and some local groups will simulcast a in-person meeting and then also offer that remote for those that are not able to join at the local level.
Good point, Matt. I posted in there the actual link that you just mentioned, the local meetings. So quick link to check out.
Yeah. VMUG.com/events and then local-meetings. And again, if you don't remember that, just go to the events tab at the upper left-hand corner of VMUG.com and then scroll down and click on local meetings, and you'll get that local event list in chronological order.
I'm just trying to find my Bay Area. I'll do that some other time. Nice. I like it. So yeah, go there, get your login, get set up, find your local chapter, reach out to your leader or your leaders for your local chapter, find out what their timeline is and when they're going to have events, and go from there. Like, I think it's a way to get involved and be part of that. And many of them are having meetings. I know at the leadership meeting we had in the US last year, Gene, we polled a lot of the leaders that were there, and many of them were having 3 or 4 meetings a year. So you're probably never more than a month or 2 away from your next meeting, right?
Right. And then I don't know if you wanted to talk about the user cons. I mean, kind of the whole reason we got these user cons together is because we just had so many people trying to get to some of these local meetings at that time. And we were trying to find a way to bring, in some states, well, first of all, VMUG tries to make sure that we don't have any groups closer than 2 hours within each other. Nobody wants to really travel, more than 2 hours to get to a meeting. So if there's another location that has a big population of VMware users, they've created, other groups. And so therefore we try and bring some of these local chapters together, as Matt was saying, maybe in a 200-mile radius, you have lots of different chapters going on, and they'll bring these all together into one user con so that the broader, region can get together at these events. And those events, prior to the pandemic, we're getting 250 to 1,000 attendees at an event. So a lot of opportunity to network with a much broader group of people. We're really excited.
I know that we've talked to the VMUG leadership about when you have the keynote, maybe take 5 minutes and let people introduce themselves. Like if you've ever been to a church where they say, okay, stand up and shake your hand of your neighbor, so do something like, when at the beginning of VMUG, have kind of some social icebreaker where you got to meet 3 new people or 4 new people. Because I've noticed when I go to these things, everybody sits in their tables with their friends, right? And then, the sessions are great. The material's great. But how do we get people to intermix and actually meet people at user cons, or at least get connected to their local user group leader so that they can participate longer down the road? But I do love, obviously, the user cons.
Yeah, good point. I mean, I think that what we want to do is, bring all these people together and get them more engaged. And that's exactly it. We have a lot of people that are maybe more introverted. And so we want to try and get ways that we can get people more engaged at these events. So if there's anything, we look to the community for ideas as well. So if there's ideas that you have, please feel free to share them with us.
I know that you're going to be attending 1 or 2 user cons, Gene.
Yep, I have the Denver one coming up in April, and then I'll be going to the Raleigh one. That's later in May. And that's just for the first half. So I look forward to anybody from those areas on this call. Come up to me, meet me. If I don't know you already, I'm excited to visit and talk with you there.
And if you want to see what Gene looks like, you can go to youtube.com/VBarbecue, where we post the live streams, VBARBECUE. So there you go, man. I got it right this time. Go there and give us a follow and a like, and you can see what Gene looks like, and then go see her if you're going to be in Colorado. Colorado's a fun one. I went to Colorado about somewhere in 2018. They had a user con there, and everybody's very young. Wow, that's a very young, hip audience there up in Colorado. Matt, I don't think they allow beards there either. It's like a different vibe versus the East Coast.
No comment.
No comment.
I would think that there would be plenty of beards in the great land of Colorado.
There might be. There might be.
I can guarantee you, though, it'll probably be snowing when I get there.
Yeah. Well, there'll still be snow on the ground because it's going to take about a half a year to melt off all the snow that's going to be out there. So excited about that. So, Gene, as we come up to the top of the hour, and I know we all have some hard stops, we got maybe 12 more minutes here. I'll ask you, like, what excites you about the upcoming year? What are you guys thinking about trying to do with VMUG? Any kind of strategic directions? What makes you excited about coming to work and working with VMUG this year?
Oh gosh, there's just so much going on, and obviously a lot of things, now being on the community team. So I'm kind of a little different. I'm changing my mindset right now, kind of going back to in the grassroots feel of, communities being on Eric's team versus, being more on the team I was on prior to this. But I really love getting out in the community more. So I really hope to see some of you folks out there getting to a lot of these more local meetings. VMUG has a lot planned. We're going to be piling some new things. We'd like to get the Cube Academy out for those of you guys who are interested in that. We're trying to get those back out in the field. We're going to try and do some code sessions out there, some hackathons, just more interaction with the members. And like I said before, we want to hear from you. So please make sure if VMUG is putting requests out for feedback, or you want to just, follow me. I'm on VMUG team is my Twitter handle. That was way before we went independent. So, feel free to reach out to me and connect. And, we're here to help support you and to bring us all together. So I'm looking forward to just, seeing more people out in the field and in person again, finally.
Yeah, I think that this year will be, much, like I said, we've got momentum in a lot of different places now. So, I do love the direction of trying to promote more of the chapters and the user interaction and bring community back to community. And one of the things that I'm trying to do, which excites me, is looking at how many, I always look at, when I think about .orgs, right? How much of the dollars they're collecting is going back to the individuals that are in the organization, right? Like, are they providing the service? How many dollars are going back to actually providing service? I always look at the Red Cross and I go, okay, they raised $1.05 went to the people in need, right? And I look at this and I know that the VMUG does a lot of great things across the board. We go to VMworlds or Explorers and they have all the stuff that they do there, and they have the user cons. But then I also want to look at, make sure that we're getting 20 cents on the dollar going to the chapter meetings and making sure that the chapters feel like they're funded, that they're getting good content, that users are participating and getting a lot out of being a chapter member. So I know, Gina, I've talked to you, like putting the community back in community, right? Where the chapter is one of these things that we try to focus on, because to me, a really thriving, healthy community is about, doing a podcast every week, right? Engaging with community members and letting community members engage with themselves and be the leaders, right? As opposed to having vendors, paying for access, right? I always look at kind of like the pay. If I could kick all the vendors out, I wouldn't, because the vendors have a role and a purpose that are great. But I also look at the funding going, like, how much is just a television commercial for the vendors versus the communities being part of the community and driving the community. So that for me is what excites me about 2024 is, and we're not really talking about turning the knobs one way or the other. We're just tweaking that a little bit to say, hey, how much, and can even I get funding? Because I work inside getting funding for a lot of these programs. Can I get funding and ring fence it for the chapters themselves, right? So if I'm giving them $1 million a year, $1 million plus, can we make sure that we went from $100,000 going to chapters to, $250,000 going to chapters, so that the chapters don't have to work as hard? And it's a little bit like the sports metaphor where you have the NFL. There are poor teams and there are rich teams, right? And we want to make sure that the poor teams get enough money to get off the ground, right? And so maybe some of the dollars that we're allocating, don't have to go to the rich teams. They can actually be used to funnel into some of the areas that, could use some help so that they can get off the ground. If you're in New York City, you got a lot of big companies that can give you money for sponsorship. When you're out in Kansas City, where Tony Foster is, right? Like, that they don't have as quite a wealth, like you don't have Chase and Citibank and these big guys that can fund things. They have a hard enough time just finding a space to go meet, right? So looking forward to maybe adjusting the dials a little bit would be fun.
Yeah, I have to say
Matt,
that's one thing I think that some of the leaders have struggled with this year is finding venues to have their meetings. So if you have a space that you can offer, that would be great. Because I know that with COVID, a lot of the locations they use, they have very limited options now. I don't know exactly all the details, but that's one thing that I hear a lot is trying to find a meeting space has been a challenge. So if your company has a space where we can, hold a meeting, please let your leader know.
Local companies, community colleges, high schools, some security concerns and whatnot there. But as long as you show that you're a registered professional group, that seems to forego some of those formalities with that. The Central PA group had one of their leaders that was in Pennsylvania. We have something called intermediary units that work with middle and high schools in a county by county level. This individual worked with that. They have a giant facility that they use that, have individual classrooms that hold anywhere from 50 to 100 people and at zero cost. So we're able to bring that in. We had a little bit of funds left over from 2022. So we had a meeting without a sponsor, right? Where it's more community driven content and whatnot, allows for a little bit more, interaction and let's say, diversity of topics that are out there rather than necessarily needing to include that vendor presentation. So for the leaders out there, we always say, think a little bit outside of the box, look at different ways to, save on what some of those venues may be. And, think of a creative place a creative and low cost place to have your meetings to drive down the overall costs so that you can do more creative things later in the year or during the meeting itself, as far as giveaways or bringing in certain speakers and being able to reimburse their expenses.
So I heard one of the board members said that, even the local police stations have community spaces that they'll lend out to any.org that makes the request. You can go there and get some space. So I think the government institutions, libraries and things like that we wouldn't necessarily think. We always think from a corporate perspective, but there are, I think, spaces
Local
that
Rotaries.
there's that can get you space that they're, and interesting enough, as we come out of COVID, a lot of space is available, right? Like there are under.
You would think, yeah.
Right, they're all like, "Gosh, I wish we could have anybody. We're just paying for this building. We're not really using it." Right?
Yeah.
Corporations have a little bit tighter lockdown issues around that. I know VMware Campus. It took us a little bit of time to get things turned back on, and now we're slowly turning back on. We're having a user. CTAB, community customer technical advisory board that CTAB that's happening on campus at the end of March. If you are listening to this and you feel like you have great input that you would love to give the engineering teams, and you think you can get budget to come to California, Ragu's going to be there. We got some great AI speaker that's coming. We got a lot of stuff going on. I think it's a 3-day event, and I think there are 30 slots open, which means that we do have some extra slots that we could fill. And if you're in the Bay Area and you want to get invited to that, reach out to myself, Gene, or Sunnery.
Or your TAM, if you have a TAM on your account, or a customer success manager on your account. Let them know that you're interested in that program, and they will find means to connect you with Eric or Gene.
That's right. And we can get you connected to that program. We are doing a little bit of outbound. We are working with some community leaders to see if we, because this is one of these resources that's coveted. And we do have, they are slowly, originally we had, I think, 40 slots Now we're down to 30, maybe 25 slots, but we do have some slots open. I think the whole event will have 100 plus people at it. So you'll get to engage with peers. And interesting, these people are, big enterprise customers like Starbucks and Citibank, and people that are running, pretty heavy duty implementations of VMware. So you will get to rub shoulders with some key IT people if that works for you. We will vet you and make sure that you are who you say you are, and that you're interested, and that you want to come and participate and give the BU's feedback, as well as they will present what new features are coming, and you'll be able to give them feedback on kind of their new feature roadmap as well.
Eric, for our listeners, those dates, do we have a rough idea of when that is occurring?
I should know that. I want to say March 24th, but I would be.
It is that week.
Yeah, the week there. I don't know. It starts on a Monday, so I would
the
have
20th through the 23rd, I think, is those 4 days, right?
Yes, that's
Monday
right.
through Thursday.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. All right. So there you go. 1 minute left. Gene Williams, V Barbecue Report. You're in Sacramento, California, the land of cows. Happy cheese. What is your favorite barbecue, and do you ever make any?
I do not make barbecue, but I love barbecue. But I probably, as much as I like chicken, I probably would say some kind of steak.
And your
ribs.
Barbecue location. Do you have a favorite place in your mind that you like to go get barbecue?
Last time I had some good barbecue was in either Texas or Kansas City.
Oh no! Don't say that. No, don't say that. Tony Foster, you want it? We can add you to the stream here. Tony Foster, like you are definitely a Kansas City, Missouri, right? Like you're not the Kansas City. Let's see, we get him back. There we go. And then
Can't hear you, Tony.
Doesn't have any audio, of course, but that's okay. We'll get him when he gets back. Just having a Kansas City shout out is enough for Tony Foster today. That's the end of the.
Hey, my dad's from Kansas City.
I learned that if you don't have your Traeger cover on your barbecue, and we get rain for like 4 solid months, your wood pellets in the system are gonna start to turn moldy, right? And you're gonna spend.
Eric, you don't have to worry about that with natural gas.
I got it. I realized as soon as I said that, Matt, that was coming.
Sorry, buddy, you teed yourself up there. That was coming straight for you.
That's like putting the big watermelon on the block and giving Matt a hammer. For sure. Yeah, well, I got nothing else to do this weekend but clean out my Traeger with slightly moldy, mesquite pellets. But we'll get it going.
Okay, I did have my outdoor oven.
I did make my classic jerk chicken splat. You cut them down the middle and spread them out. I may put those on the regular Kingsford charcoal grill, and it's good. We had like one sunny day before the rain went away again or came back, so it is good to have a little bit of barbecue. We're going to come into summer any month now, and it'll be
yes,
fun.
We will.
Oh my God! There you go, Tony Foster. I don't know why she thinks Kansas City has,
That's because these are the 2 user group areas where they said we're going out for barbecue. No one else is.
Yes. Yes. You come to the Wichita or Kansas City VMUGs, you're going out for barbecue.
Hey Tony, was it Kansas City that I went to where there was a barbecue place that was at an old gas station?
I think so.
Yeah, it was a gas station converted into this barbecue place.
Yes. I'm trying to think of which one that is because there are a couple of them in Kansas City. But yes, that I know that for several VMUGs, they have taken people to one of the 2 or 3 that are in Kansas City. So
yeah. So yes. It was just well known for that, Eric. So that's why I went. I'm sure we have good barbecue here somewhere in California, but I don't know in my area. You'll have to bring me to one when I come down to the Bay Area. Maybe it's your house.
Well, we're at the top of the hour. We managed to get a nice podcast in, and Gene, always nice to have you. You are birds of a feather to me. I mean, I feel like I'm managing the community team, but the truth is, you don't really manage a community team. You just are part of it, and you're part of it, and so is Matt and Tony Foster and Graham and everybody else is out here listening to this show. You are just part of that. So I'm excited to try to get us some more money, get the chapters. More stickers. I love the sticker wall that you guys did. It is fantastic to see. We have a slide now that Gene presents inside of VMware that has all maybe like 40 of the chapter sticker icons all on
I'm sure
it.
it's more like 75 at least.
On that slide. Yeah, it's super cool. I mean, when you're presenting that, I just want to stop and let everybody just sit and look at them for an extra 3 minutes on the presentation, because literally everybody sits and you could just see them staring at their Zoom screen, looking at all the different.
Pretty cool.
It is super cool. It is.
Well, I look forward to getting out some more chapter meetings this year, in addition to the user cons. And I appreciate you guys having me on today. Thanks so much.
Yeah. You're welcome. Matt, Tony Foster, Graham, thanks for being here. We'll be here again, as always, Wednesday, 12 to 1. Have a great day. Go get some barbecue.
Bye.